NAPH had a lobby day scheduled for September 12th, 2001.
And so many of us were flying in on September 10th, 2001. And I was one of those people.
We certainly realized we were not going to be having a lobby day the next day. Most of the NAPH members were fortunately already on the tarmac at their home airports, and their planes did not take off.
I was supposed to leave on 9/11, and I was walking my dogs in Houston, getting ready to go to the airport. My cell phone went off, and I was told what had happened. I still keep that plane ticket, and it's a very, it means something. I mean, it brings back that day.
Of course, the morning of September 11th, some of us were heading down to the Hill, and although we had seen what happened in New York on the television, we didn't know about the Pentagon yet, and all the dots weren't connected, and I got into a cab with my then boss, and we headed toward the Hill, and we could see the smoke from the Pentagon, but we still hadn't put it together. The tremendous crisis and assault on our country. And we got out of the cab and we actually saw people streaming out of the House office buildings. We were just across the street from the Capitol. And of course we were heading into the House office buildings, and people were basically telling us that all of the security guards were telling all the staff and the people inside the building to basically run and to leave the buildings because they didn't know whether the Capitol or the office buildings were potentially going to be under attack. And we ended up on Pennsylvania Avenue, and there had to be at least 10,000 people who had all been evacuated but had nowhere to go. And for reasons that I can never make sense, we were heading up Pennsylvania Avenue toward the White House, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that was just the way the crowd was moving.
And we spent the next couple of days with members stranded in town, helping them try to get out. I actually drove some people to Union Station who were finally 3 days later able to get train tickets to go the whole way across country. We spent a lot of time with them at their hotels because it was bad enough to be at home, much less to be in a strange city like Washington. It made us, though, very, very close to the members. It was just an incredible experience. There was one night, this one is sort of interesting, Leon Panetta was in the same restaurant that we were in. He, I think, was running the Panetta Institute then. We all now know him as Secretary of Defense. But when he had been in Congress, he had been very close to public hospitals, and I was actually with Denny Martin, who was then with CAPH, and Melissa Stafford Jones from CAPH, and Leon Panetta came over and sat with us for a while. He had his jeans on because he said he'd come to Washington for one day, and he had a pair of traveling jeans and one business suit, and that was it, and it was like day number 3. So like everybody, he was stranded in Washington.
I remember having dinner that night with my boss, Denny Martin, and Chris Birch, and other folks from NAPH, and I just being I don't even know what word to use, just so stunned at everything that was happening, and to be here in the Capitol, and none of them wanted to be around me too much because my son was only 12 weeks old. So I was very upset because it was my first business trip after coming back from maternity leave, and so I think I was not the most fun person to be around, but they tolerated me.
I said to Melissa, your son is one child who I will never forget his age.
So that's mine. But it was very hard because I ended up being separated from my son for a week because I couldn't get back to California. So, and then we ended up taking the train across the country to get back home because there weren't any flights. So, but obviously we were very fortunate and lucky, and our experience, although dramatic, we were obviously safe and mostly thinking about the people who had lost their lives or had lost family members. But it is a memory that I associate with NAPH, and the sort of shared history that I have with NAPH. It's personal as well as professional.